Hello everyone, today we'll be talking about cell biology. First thing we'll talk about is calculating magnification. First we'll take out a ruler and we'll measure out the length of the algae in millimeters. Once we find out that the picture of the algae is 20 millimeters, we need to change the units into the same units as the scale bar label. So the LEDO is 20 millimeters, so it's equal to 20,000 micrometers. And to calculate the magnification, we do 20,000 micrometers divided by 10 micrometers, which is coming from the scale bar label. And we get that the magnification is 2,000 times. Next, we'll talk about how to calculate the actual size. To calculate the actual size, it's a lot more simpler. We just measure the length of the image and we divide it by the magnification. When you divide measure length and magnification together, the ending result will have the same units as the measured length. For example, if you measure millimeters and you divide that measured length by the magnification, the amount that you get will also be in millimeters, even though it's a small amount. Once you reach this step, you can convert this amount into micrometers or nanometers. Depending on which one is more suitable, you would change it to one or the other. In this case, nanometers would be the best because it provides us an integer. An example problem would be this. A sperm cell has a tail 50 micrometers long. A student draws it 75 millimeters long. What is the magnification? First, you would convert millimeters to micrometers. 75 millimeters equals 75,000 micrometers. And once you get 75,000, you can divide it by 50 micrometers. And you get the magnification of 1,500 times. The cell theory states that all living things are composed of cells. The cell is the smallest unit of life, and cells only arise from pre-existing cells. However, as science progressed, we have added more statements to the cell theory. Cells have metabolism, cells all have DNA, and cells all need energy. Cells contain organelles, which means that they are smaller than cells. Although this is the case, organelles cannot survive alone, so they are not known as the smallest unit of life. The evidence for this statement, cells only arise from pre-existing cells, include cells going through mitosis or meiosis, and prokaryotic cells going through binary fission. They all reproduce and split apart. There are some exceptions to cell theory, and one of them is a strated muscle. The strated muscle challenges the idea that a cell has only one nucleus. Muscle cells are extremely long and thin, but they have several nuclei within one cell. Another exception to the cell theory is the aseptate fungal hyphae. It challenges the idea that a cell is a single unit because the cytoplasm is continuous. It is not separated with plasma membranes or cell walls. They are also multinucleated like muscle cells. Another exception to cell theory is the giant algae. It is giant in size and complex in form, and that challenges the idea that cells must be simple in structure and small in size. All organisms carry out the functions of life. The functions of life include metabolism, response, homeostasis, growth, excretion, reproduction, and nutrition. Metabolism is the web of all the enzyme-catalyzed reactions in a cell or organism. Response is when living things respond and interact with the environment. An example would be how plants grow towards sunlight. Homeostasis is the maintenance of and regulation of internal cell conditions. For example, humans would be extremely hot when exercising, so sweat comes out and that lowers the temperature of our body. Growth. Living things can grow or change in size and shape. Excretion. Organisms remove waste. Reproduction. Living things produce offspring, either sexually or asexually. And nutrition. Organisms feed by either the synthesis of organic molecules through photosynthesis in plants or absorption of organic matter. For example, like humans consuming food and fungi decomposing corpses. Surface area to volume ratio is important because it limits the sizes a cell can be. Bigger cells usually have a lower surface area to volume ratio, and smaller cells have a larger surface area to volume ratio. And this is why smaller cells are more efficient, because for every unit of volume that requires nutrients or produces waste, there's more membrane to serve it. And since smaller cells are more efficient than larger cells, cells usually stick to being small because it's more efficient. Diffusion pathways are shorter in a smaller cell because molecules don't have to travel a longer distance in a bigger cell. And also concentration gradients are easier to generate in a smaller cell. But a small cell is not always beneficial because the large surface area to volume ratio can actually be a detriment to some organisms. An example would be desert plants. Desert plants lose water quickly because it's very hot in the desert, very sunny. So when there are a lot of cells, it allows for more water to be evaporated. Organisms can maximize their surface area to volume ratio through cell division, cell compartmentalization, and organs folding up. When a cell grows and becomes extremely big, their surface area to volume ratio decreases. So when that happens, cells divide in order to make smaller cells that have a larger surface area to volume ratio. Emergent properties arise from the interaction of component parts. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Multicellular organisms are capable of completing functions that individual cells cannot undertake. This is due to the interaction between cells producing new functions. For example, the mouth, the esophagus, the stomach can all work together in the digestive system. First, food comes into the mouth produces enzymes or saliva that breaks down the food, while the food then travels down the esophagus and into the stomach acid, where the food is digested even more. Notice that each part has a different role within the system, but all of them work together to have this one function of obtaining nutrients and excreting the waste products. The last thing I'll talk about are stem cells. Stem cells are unspecialized cells that can continuously divide and replicate. They have the capacity to differentiate into specialized cell types. The different types of cells are totipotent, which means that they can differentiate into any type of cell. Pluripotent, they can differentiate into many types of cells, but not all. Multipotent, can differentiate into a few closely related types of cells. And unipotent, they can only regenerate into one cell type. Stem cells can be used to treat Stargardt's macular dystrophy. Stargardt's dystrophy is a disease where photoreceptor cells degenerate in the eyes, and that causes blindness. Stem cells can be used to treat this disease because they can divide and differentiate to become retinal cells. The retinal cells are injected into the retina, and the retinal cells attach to the retina and become functional again. So vision comes back and is improved. Leukemia is a cancer of the blood or bone marrow, resulting in abnormally high levels of poorly functioning white blood cells. These poorly functioning white blood cells are first killed through chemotherapy and radiotherapy, and stem cells are harvested from the bone marrow, the umbilical cord, or peripheral blood, and this is put back into the body after the white blood cells are destroyed, and these stem cells differentiate into new white blood cells, and that helps treat leukemia.